Have you ever felt like you were completely out of options and just wanted the world to stop for a second? That is exactly where Summer Spellman is right now, but the way she's trying to hit the pause button is honestly terrifying. We've seen a lot of drama on the cobbles, but this new hospital ordeal is on a whole different level because it's not just an accident. It is a calculated, desperate act of medical self-sabotage that should make everyone's skin crawl. Was this a simple mistake, or is it something much darker lurking under the surface? Think about it for a second. Summer is currently sitting in a prison cell for a murder she didn't even do. She's being accused of killing Theo Silverton, and the walls are literally and figuratively closing in on her. But here is the real kicker that makes my blood boil. She isn't just a victim of the law, she is a victim of the people who are supposed to have her back. When you're locked up, you lose everything: your freedom, your privacy, and your voice. For someone like Summer, who has always lived as the good girl, that loss of control is like a death sentence. The situation is getting so bad that Summer has reached a point of no return in her own head. She is spiraling into a pit of despair because she feels like nobody is listening to her. So what does she do? She uses the only thing she still has power over, her own body. She actually decides to switch off her insulin pump on purpose. Just let that sink in for a minute. She knows she is a type 1 diabetic. She knows that without that insulin, her body will start to shut down almost immediately. But she's so desperate to get out of that jail cell, even for a few hours, that she is willing to risk a painful, lonely death in a hospital bed. It is utterly heartbreaking to see a young woman weaponize her own illness like this. In my view, this isn't just about escaping jail. It's about Summer trying to reclaim some kind of agency in a world that has stripped her bare. If she can't control the judge or the jury, she'll control her own heart rate. It's a high-stakes gamble, and the scary part is that it actually works. But at what cost? When she gets rushed to the hospital, it isn't just a routine checkup. She is heading straight for a condition called diabetic ketoacidosis, or DKA. If you don't know what that is, it is basically a biological nightmare where your blood turns acidic because your body is trying to burn fat for energy since it can't get any sugar. The sources tell us this is a life-threatening emergency. Imagine feeling like you can't catch your breath, having your stomach feel like it's being tied in knots, and smelling like rotting fruit. That specific fruity smell is the acetone on her breath, and it's a sign that her system is literally poisoning itself. She's gasping for air in what doctors call Kussmaul breathing, which is just her body's way of trying to fight off the acid. It's brutal, and she chose this. Why would anyone choose that? It's because Summer has hit a psychological wall where the pain of the needle is nothing compared to the pain of being called a murderer. She is feeling totally isolated, and that kind of loneliness can make even a hospital tube feel like a lifeline. But while Summer is fighting for her life, there is someone else on the street who should be feeling a lot more than just uncomfortable. I'm talking about Tyrone Dobbs. Let's be real here. Tyrone is the reason Summer is in that cell in the first place. He told a massive lie to save his own skin, and now he's watching a young girl pay the price for his cowardice. He actually saw Carl Webster tampering with Kevin's brakes the night Theo died. He even filmed it on his phone. But then, in a moment of pure clumsiness and panic, he knocked the jack and the car crushed Carl. Instead of calling for help or telling the truth, he just ran away. He threw Summer under the bus because he didn't want the police to know he was there. Every time Tyrone looks in the mirror, he should see Summer's face in that hospital bed. He is living a lie, and that lie is literally killing someone else. Do you think he can ever really come back from this? The funny thing is, the show's writers aren't just doing this for the shock value. There is actually a whole science behind why soaps put characters through these medical ringers. It's called entertainment education, or E. The idea is to sneak health lessons into the drama so we actually pay attention. A big study tells us that these kinds of stories can actually change how we think and behave in real life. By showing us the raw, ugly reality of DKA, the vomiting, the confusion, the danger, they are teaching us the warning signs without us even realizing it. They use something called the social cognitive theory, which basically means we learn by watching what characters do. When we see Summer suffering, we identify with her, and that makes the medical info stick in our brains much better than a textbook ever could. It's a way to reach people who might not have easy access to healthcare or good information. But even though it's educational, it's still pretty dark to watch Summer use her life-saving pump as an escape hatch. Psychologically, Summer is going through a total breakdown of her identity. She used to be the one who had everything together, but prison has turned her into someone she doesn't recognize. She's dealing with what I'd call a total loss of self-efficacy, which is just a fancy way of saying she doesn't believe she can change her situation anymore. When you feel that helpless, you start doing things that don't make sense to anyone else. It's a cry for help, sure, but it's also a way to force the world to look at her. She knows Todd is worried sick, and she knows her friends Nina and Asha are there for her, but she still feels like she's in a hole she can't climb out of. On the other hand, Tyrone is trapped in his own psychological prison of guilt. He's suffering from a massive case of self-preservation bias. His brain is telling him that his life and his family with Fizz are more important than the truth. He's a bystander who didn't just watch, he actively participated in a cover-up. It's pathetic, honestly. He's watching a girl nearly die while he worries about getting into trouble with the police. And speaking of the police, they're finally starting to wake up and smell the coffee. DC Kit Green and DS Lisa Connor Swain have found Todd's missing phone, and that is a huge game changer. They're starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, they've got the wrong person. The evidence is starting to point toward Gary Windass, and we all know Gary has a closet full of skeletons. Maria is already panicking because she gave him a fake alibi, and she can sense that something is seriously wrong in her marriage. The tension is building up like a pressure cooker. Tyrone is also getting collared by Carl, who is finally starting to remember what happened the night he got crushed. The walls are closing in on everyone. Tyrone finally snaps and tells Fizz everything, and she is absolutely flabbergasted. She basically orders him to go to the cops. But is it too late? Summer is already in that hospital bed, and her trial is coming up fast. So, here is what I think is going to happen next. I'm predicting a massive explosion in the Dobbs household. When the truth comes out that Tyrone let an innocent girl rot in jail to save his own skin, the community is going to turn on him. And Gary? He's in big trouble. The police are already watching him like hawks. But the biggest change is going to be in Summer herself. She has crossed a line now. Once you use your own health to manipulate a situation, you change as a person. She won't be the sweet Summer anymore. She's going to be a survivor who knows how to play the game. She's realized that the only way to get justice in Weatherfield is to be just as messy as everyone else. It's a dark turn for the character, but honestly, can you blame her? After everything she's been through, maybe being the good girl just wasn't working anymore. I really want to hear from you guys on this one because it's such a moral mess. Do you think Summer was being brave for taking control, or was she just being incredibly reckless and dangerous? And what about Tyrone? Is there any way he can actually fix this, or has he destroyed his reputation forever? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to keep up with all the twists and turns on the cobbles, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. We're going to be following this story every step of the way, from the hospital bed to the courtroom. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next breakdown of all things Weatherfield. Have you ever looked at a situation and just wondered how on earth it got this bad? Well, take a seat, because Summer Spellman is about to take us on a journey that is honestly hard to watch. We have seen some pretty wild stuff on the cobbles over the years, but this latest hospital ordeal for Summer is something else entirely. It isn't just an accident or a sudden illness. No, this is a calculated, desperate act of biological warfare on her own body. It makes you think, doesn't it? Was this just a simple cry for help? Or has the trauma of prison turned Summer into someone she doesn't even recognize anymore? Summer is currently rotting in a prison cell for a crime she didn't commit, the murder of Theo Silverton. But here's the thing that really gets to me. She's not just fighting a legal system that's failed her. She is fighting the crushing silence of the people who are supposed to protect her. In my view, prison doesn't just lock you away. It strips you of the one thing Summer has always tried to keep a tight grip on, which is control. For a type 1 diabetic, that control isn't just a personality trait. It is literally her survival mechanism. When she makes the choice to switch off her insulin pump, she isn't just making herself sick to get a hospital pass. Analysis shows she is engaging in a high-stakes form of medical self-sabotage because she feels like her life is already over. If the whole world thinks you're a killer, why even bother being a survivor? This situation didn't happen in a vacuum. It is the direct result of the weight of false accusations and a betrayal so deep it has basically poisoned the air she breathes. So, why did she actually do it? Why take the risk of something as terrifying as diabetic ketoacidosis? The sources describe this as a condition that is potentially life-threatening, and they aren't exaggerating. I think Summer has reached what we might call a psychological terminal velocity. In jail, she has zero say over her food, her schedule, or her future. The only thing she still owns is that insulin pump. By switching it off, she's reclaiming her power, even if that power is purely destructive. She was triggered by the trial getting closer and closer, and the pressure to plead guilty to manslaughter for a shorter sentence. She chose a different escape route, one that bypasses the judge and goes straight to the emergency room. Internally, Summer must feel completely hollow. There is this hidden layer of resentment that the show hasn't fully voiced yet. Can you imagine the smell of acetone on your own breath, or that deep, gasping, Kuzmal breathing, where you're fighting for every lungful of air? She's feeling a profound sense of isolation. She knows she's innocent, yet she's surrounded by people who either think she's a murderer or are too scared to say she isn't. That kind of loneliness can make a hospital bed, even with all the tubes and monitors, feel like a sanctuary compared to a prison bunk. Did I want to look at this from a different angle for a second? We usually see a medical crisis as a failure, but in the world of Coronation Street, this is a protest. Summer isn't the victim of her diabetes here. She is using it like a megaphone. The sources talk about entertainment education, which is when soap operas use health stories to teach us something or change how we act. But here, the writers are doing something much darker. They are showing us what happens when someone feels they have no voice left in the system. Instead of showing us the right way to manage a condition, Summer is showing us the ultimate act of desperation. That I honestly hate that it has come to this, but I have to admit, it is incredibly honest writing. Actions like this prove that Summer's good girl persona was always just a fragile mask. Do I agree with her switching off the pump? Absolutely not. It is a terrifyingly dangerous gamble with her life. But do I understand why she'd want to set the house on fire, just so someone would finally see the smoke? Yeah, I do. Summer is effectively saying, if you won't listen to my words, maybe you'll listen to my heart monitor. Psychologically, this is about the ego making a last stand. When your reputation is murdered, your physical survival starts to feel secondary. Summer is suffering from a state where the artificial world of prison forces her into extreme behaviors just to feel like anything is real. Her insecurity about whether her innocence will ever be recognized has turned into a total abandonment of self-preservation. It's type 1 trauma meeting judicial trauma, and it's a medical emergency that one man on the street actually has the power to stop. We have to talk about Tyrone Dobbs, because he is the secret ingredient in this poison cocktail. Why on earth is he staying silent? Well, he's protecting himself after the night Carl Webster was crushed. Tyrone didn't just tell a little white lie. He basically signed Summer's prison warrant to keep his own hands clean. He saw Carl tampering with Kevin's brakes and even filmed it, but then he accidentally knocked the jack that crushed the man. He acted out of pure, unadulterated panic, and then he ran away. Tyrone is living in a state of constant, low-level vibration. It's that skin-crawling guilt that makes you unable to look your own family in the eye. He's watching the news about Summer's health, and every time her name comes up, it's like a physical blow to the gut. He's feeling the bystander effect on a personal level. He wasn't just a witness who did nothing. He's a witness who pointed the finger at an innocent girl to make sure nobody looked at him. This isn't just a soap opera secret. It is a case study in moral bankruptcy. Tyrone is the everyman character who failed the ultimate test of character. We all like to think we'd be the hero in that situation, but Corey is showing us the reality of how weak people can be. By failing to back up Summer's story, he didn't just lie. He threw her under the bus to avoid being connected to Carl's accident. He is the one who built the situation that led to Summer's hospital ordeal. If he had just spoken up, she wouldn't have been pushed to the edge. In my opinion, Tyrone is currently the most frustrating person in Weatherfield. His silence is actually more dangerous than Summer's medical crisis, because his silence is a choice. I completely disagree with the idea that protecting his family, justifies destroying a young girl's life. It's just pathetic. He's watching Summer fight for her life while he sits in the pub feeling uncomfortable. It makes my blood boil. Psychologically, this is classic self-preservation bias. Tyrone's brain has convinced him that his survival, and the survival of his life with Fizz, is worth more than the truth. The trauma from the night Carl was injured has created a mental block that puts safety above integrity. He is trapped in a vicious circle of lies, where one lie makes him tell 10 more, and now those lies are literally killing Summer Spellman. Let's look at the medical reality of this for a second. Coronation Street is known for its entertainment education initiatives. They want to increase health knowledge and shift how we think about social issues. By showing the symptoms of DKA, the vomiting, the confusion, and that fruity breath, they are actually teaching us the warning signs. But why do it through a drama? Because research says that stories make information much easier to understand for most people. They aren't just telling us about a medical condition. They are making us feel what's at stake through Summer's desperation for people who actually live with type 1 diabetes. This storyline is probably a double-edged sword. There is often a lot of fear or shame around these topics. The hidden emotion for the audience here is anxiety. Watching a character deliberately stop their treatment is a nightmare scenario for anyone in the medical community. It's utterly heartbreaking because it turns a life-saving tool into a weapon. I think the show is walking a very thin line, using a real, life-threatening condition like DKA as a way to break out of prison feels a bit like they're exploiting the illness. However, if it gets people talking about the dangers of stopping an insulin pump, which can have catastrophic consequences, then maybe it's worth it. But let's be clear, Summer isn't a hero for doing this. She is a victim of a story that demands her suffering just to keep us entertained. This all taps into what scientists call the elaboration likelihood model. By using the drama of a prison hospital rush, the show is forcing us to think more deeply about the medical facts of diabetes. It is a way to reduce health risks by showing us the absolute worst-case scenario. The psychological reasons for Summer's behavior, her loss of self-belief while in jail, are exactly what the research says we should be paying attention to. Things are about to get a whole lot worse for everyone involved. As word about Summer's condition spreads, the police, DC Kit Green and DS Lisa Connor Swain, start looking at the case from a new angle. They finally find Todd's missing phone, and suddenly, the official version of Theo's murder starts to fall apart. The tension is rising because Tyrone is being collared by Carl Webster, who is starting to remember what happened the night he was injured. The walls are closing in on Tyrone's lie just as the hospital walls are closing in on Summer's life.